Thank you to the media for coming this morning. Here we are in the springtime in Rhode Island to talk about ATVs and the challenge with ATVs and our response. They've started most recently in a couple of weeks, and we've strategized and looked at various practices. And the message to those folks will be clear. If they come in and they ride recklessly and illegally, the Providence Police Department will be ready and there will be a response. Let me introduce the Mayor, Jorge Elorza, for a few comments, and then the Colonel, and I'll come back up for any questions on this matter. Mayor Jorge Elorza.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I want to thank Commissioner Paré, Chief Clements, and the members of the command staff that are here with us today. So thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do. I also want to thank members of the media here. Thank you for helping us to get the word and the message out, you know, as we head into warmer weather, and as you know, these illegal ATV riders are starting to pop up on our streets more and more. So what we want to do here today is get out in front of this as much as possible, and you know, reiterate our message to all the illegal ATV riders on our streets to not come. Don't come to Providence. Don't ride your ATVs on our streets. And if you do, there are going to be consequences. Speaking with the Commissioner and with the Chief, we've prioritized this over the past several years, taking aggressive steps of pulling over, seizing, and destroying about 250 ATVs and dirt bikes in recent years. We know that in spite of these efforts, it continues to be a challenge here in our city, and that causes us to devote resources to this that frankly can and should be used in other areas. So it puts a strain and a stress on our police department and our ability to address public safety issues throughout the city. So to all of the residents of the city and beyond, particularly folks who have been frustrated and have expressed frustration over the past couple of years on this, I want you to know that myself, the Commissioner, the Police Chief, and I think it's fair to say our entire police department shares this frustration. And it's not just limited here to Providence. The Chief will be speaking in a second about his interactions with police chiefs and myself with mayors from other cities, other major cities throughout the country experiencing the exact same frustrations that we are. And in terms of learning from each other, sharing, and employing best practices, we continue to have these conversations and do what we can to effectively keep these ATVs and these illegal dirt bikes off of our streets. So it's out of that shared frustration that we will continue to prioritize this throughout the city. And so, again, what we want to do here today is get out in front of the issue as much as possible. Let folks know that do use these illegal bikes and vehicles on our streets to stay off of our streets. If you do come onto our streets, there will be consequences, and to let the general public know that we're employing all of our best efforts and employing the best practices gathered and learned from mayors, police chiefs, and cities throughout the country, and bring them to bear to keep these bikes and vehicles off of our streets. They're not just illegal, but they're illegal for a reason, because they're dangerous. We've already seen a number of people being injured, and we've seen a lot of lawlessness that frankly makes folks feel significantly less safe. That's a problem. We're not going to tolerate it, and I appreciate the efforts of our police department in addressing it. So the last thing I'll say before I turn it over to the police chief is that we also ask for the public support and the public's help to report the location or the use of any of these illegal ATVs or dirt bikes. You can always call the police department at 401-680-8288. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Commissioner, or to the Chief?
To the Chief, please.
I'll hand it over to the Chief. Chief Clements.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner. And I thank the media for covering this very important topic. Here we are once again with the weather about to break, so we know the calls have already begun. And when we address this in a directed patrol type function, everything we do that we strategize around, we know that we have a degree of success. So we know these illegal, reckless operation of ATVs, scooters, dirt bikes on our city streets have posed and will continue to pose dangers for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians in our community. And this is not solely a local issue. It's a regional issue, and I can tell you it's a national issue. We constantly look for best ways to strategize around our greatest challenges. This is a great challenge for urban police departments around this country. And we've worked, this command staff, Commander Verdi, the majors, the captains, they work extremely hard in developing the best practices. And many departments around this country utilize some of the strategies that we've deployed, including legislation. And the City Council and the Mayor's office has been very helpful in that regard, in that, years ago we passed legislation that allowed us to have greater impact with these crackdowns that we do on these bikes. These bikes, and predominantly young men who ride them, at times terrorize motorists. They destroy public places, ball fields, Roger Williams Park. It's a very big problem in Providence and the surrounding communities. The crackdown is designed to make the community safer and to improve the quality of life. So some of the strategies, I'm not going to get into specific strategies that we deploy, but we rely on the media to get this message out about safety. There have been many who have been injured. There have been footages, graphic footages around the country. There was one recently put out by the NYPD where a father and his son were dragged out of a car and viciously beaten. I see nods out there. It was brutal. And so we'll continue to monitor the actions and deploy task force resources with the weather breaking. And we'll do that in collaboration and communication with our law enforcement partners and our community partners. But with our law enforcement partners last year, we made a good deal of headway in working with the Rhode Island State Police and Cranston Police in collaborating with them. And by that I mean we would communicate when we would deploy task force resources to address this issue, and they would be on alert that Providence is working on this with their task force, and they may dedicate some resources in or around the city. In the case of Cranston and other surrounding communities, they would do the same. And we knew we made a dent last year and the year before. And the last several years, we've seized over 250, and they're hard. They're hard apprehensions to make in a safe manner. Every strategy that we deploy out there with directed patrols in the form of task force, the message is to do this in the safest manner possible. It's almost impossible, but it's such a public concern and such a public safety risk. We're putting the message out now. We're not going to tolerate it. And if there's 25 bikes out there later today, we may get 2 or 3 or a half dozen. But the message is individuals who are operating illegally, against the law, in a reckless manner, terrorizing people, when apprehended, they'll be brought before the courts. The bike will be legally seized and brought before the judicial process. And we've done that with all 250, which is designated by city ordinance. Presently, we have 97 in queue, in our custody. And it's a long process after we apprehend someone. Their case is filtered off to court, but it's a long process with the equipment, the bike itself. And it has to be vetted through the court system. And so of those 97, we have 55 that have been adjudicated. and the other 42 are waiting to be adjudicated. And with those 55, we'll make a determination as to what we do with those. But we know, like every other strategy that we employ when we do this with our community partners, and with your help, we win in the end. We get to a better place. It may not be perfect. There is no magic solution for these reckless motorists. There is none. You watch the footages in cities bigger than Providence around the country. There are some horrific images. So we made a significant headway last summer towards the fall, and we're intent on doing the same. That's why we wanted to have this press conference, to put the message out early. It will not be tolerated. It's unacceptable for the safety of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So we're ready. To those that listen, if you come here with your ATVs, mini bikes, scooters that are unregistered and illegal, we will go for you and your bike, and we'll move to forfeit, meaning you will lose your bike through the process, and you will not get it back, and we'll destroy that bike so it's not back on the city streets. So